All right, welcome to the City of Fairfield's public budget presentation. During this event, each department head will have a dedicated 10-minute slot to delve into their operations, discuss expenditures, and field questions from the council. Following these presentations, the departments will remain present as the floor opens to the audience for inquiries. The primary objective of this event is to enlighten the community about the intricate workings of the City of Fairfield, provide insight into our future direction as a city, and foster transparency. We aim to establish a robust foundation of community engagement, cultivate stronger relationships, and foster trust. While many are aware of what we do and how we do it, our ultimate goal is to communicate effectively why we do it. The city's overall operating budget is $36,931,437, with a revenue stream of $37,211,783. The difference is $280,346, demonstrating a balanced budget with a slim margin of error in the next fiscal year. These leftover funds are dedicated to debt service, emergency repairs that remain unanticipated. To an individual, this difference is a considerable amount of savings. But for an organization with hundreds of millions of dollars in assets and infrastructure, this is a signal of caution and scrutiny. Our general obligation debt at current is $4,331,000. We pay the principal in June. This does not include that payment. By the end of 2025, approximately $11,475,000, with the new note coming before the end of the fiscal year for the fire station and Sunrise Trail infrastructure. Our water and sewer debt by the end of 2025 is $39,421,466. We will be taking on step 4 sewer improvements and the electrodialysis reversal EDR project for the water plant at $4 million. The total debt by the end of the year will be $50,896,466. We have proposed several cures, minimally raising fees in our operations to balance the budget and close the gap between revenues and expenses. Throughout the planning process, department heads have been tasked with reducing an already bare-bones budget financial plan and exercising cost-saving measures to reduce the operating costs and expenses. As the city operates as efficiently and effectively as possible, it is important to note that we must continue to work with our community partners and provide essential services as well as quality of life infrastructure that continues to attract and retain good-paying jobs, build affordable housing, and attract young families to grow Fairfield's economic base. Partnerships such as the Fairfield Convention and Visitors Bureau that is subsidized by the Hotel Motel tax, Grow Fairfield, Evergreen Cemetery, Carnegie Art and Convention Center, Fairfield Media Center, the Chamber of Commerce, and many more partners that provide services from the lens of growth, attraction, and perpetual care that helps good governance of Fairfield to make this city a great place for people to live, work, and play. Throughout the year, these partners that help us will review their fiscal reports independently to share their strategies, but today we will review our operations. We have much to be proud of. Over the last year, we have completed the Highway 1 roundabout to improve traffic safety and save money on the long-term maintenance. We began construction on the new restrooms at Chautauqua Park, which will be completed this year. We completed the demolition and reconstruction of Crow Creek Bridge, which, if not addressed, would impact a major thoroughfare east of town for farmers. We begin construction on the new fire station, which replaces a desperately needed resources that protects the infrastructure and the citizens of the city of Fairfield and Jefferson County, as well as the surrounding region. The city has successfully partnered with the county, Vastu Partners, Grow Fairfield, and others to grow the city's boundary. The 2 new housing developments will begin building the critical infrastructure for North Ridge subdivision of 38 homes and the Sunrise Trail Phase 1 of 37 homes, which with an average of 3 people per resident could increase the population by 225 citizens. We all work hard to improve and maintain the community in which we live and serve. There are many projects I have not listed, and I will continue to update you as time goes on. Fairfield is a growing community with a lot of potential, and it is our mission to grow, serve, and strategically improve this great city. We will never give up. We will never stop. I yield the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about the airport and my budget. I wanted to start out by just talking about the airport from the beginning. In 1967, the airport was built. It took a few years, about 3 to 4 years, and it was built with a runway of 4,000 feet and a couple small ramps. Since then, I just wanted to talk briefly about the improvements at the airport that have been made over the years. In the beginning, I started in 1995, along with my brother Roger. We went on a mission with the City Council and our airport committee to improve the airport, which we've done many projects. I've laid it out for the council like I did last year. There's brochures back there that people can take and look at. We've done many things. We started out with 2 aprons that was state and federally funded and city funded. We went from that to building a new corporate hangar. We then went on a mission to improve the taxiways and the entryways to the T hangars, along with 2 new maintenance buildings. We put a new beacon in 2010. We kept improving on taxiways. And then around 2010, we put in a new runway, which greatly helped the airport out and expanded large jet aircraft to come into the airport. Now we're working on our Phase 4 taxiway project at the airport, and there's many other things here. I've listed all my duties, etc., that everybody can look at. And then I just wanted to go into my budget. On the revenue side, our budget's fairly small. On the revenue side, our largest income is our farm lease. After that is hangar rent, fuel fees, and we get most all our money that we spend at the airport is grant. All the CIP stuff is all 95 to 90% funded by the FAA, and we also get state grants also. On the expenditure side, it's straightforward. Building maintenance and repairs, that just is straightforward. That's all the building and maintenance that we do at the airport. Ground maintenance and repairs is listed there. A few things: weed control, mowing, etc., blowouts, many things that I could talk about for a long time, but I'll keep it brief today. Equipment repairs is just what it is. Equipment repairs on. We have 2 large snowplow trucks, an end-loader, 3 mowers, and a few other small items. Electrical and gas. Engineer expense, we do hold back about $5,000 a year for our CIP updates with our engineering firm, which is mandatory by the FAA. We have to do that every year. And then just street maintenance supplies. That's just what it is, maintenance supplies for our runway lights, etc. And one of the big things is our contractual services, which we do. I listed there many things that we do at the airport, mowing, snow plowing, and a lot of other things, which you can look at it later, and you'll see it there. And then that's just about it. Anybody, any questions? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brett Farrell. I'm the City of Fairfield Fire Chief. Thanks for having me here. I just kind of like to start off and give a little structure of our fire department. I've been on the fire department since year 2000, so I'll be 25 years this October. Many of those were spent as a firefighter and then moved up to captain, assistant chief, and then the chief job was offered in 2023. Our structure is we have a roster of 21, which is fairly small for a department like ours. We're a combination department, meaning we have volunteers and paid full-time engineer drivers. 3 full-time drivers, 18 part-time firefighters, include the chief. Of those part-time, we have a chief, assistant chief, 2 captains, and a lieutenant. Our full-time drivers respond to medical calls, as do some of our other personnel who are trained EMTs. Our response, and also our drivers, I don't know if people are aware of this, they also do rental inspections within the city, and they do the liquor license within the city of Fairfield. So they're out and about. Our response is dictated by the address. You know, if it's in the city, we go to the scene. If it's in the county, we go to the station, grab our gear, and then we deploy to the address in the county. We protect not only the city of Fairfield, but also the rural community. And our district is 130 square foot, or square miles, I apologize. But the county is 437 square miles, and we mutual aid throughout the whole county. Some of the statistics on the mutual aid, which I think are important, since we do offer mutual aid to every fire department around us. In 2024, we had 14 mutual aid givens by our fire department to surrounding fire departments. And the crazy thing is, 3.5 months into this year, we're already up to 17 mutual aid calls to other departments. So not only do we do fire department stuff, but part of the fire department is volunteerism. And some of the things that we do to volunteer, you know, we do adopt a firefighter, which is at schools, second grade schools. We've been doing that for about 25, 26 years, and we go once a month to the second graders, teach them fire safety. We do the Breakfast with the Hero, Jefferson County Fair, Veterans Day, Kiwanis Kids Day Parade, and help set the tent up. Homecoming activities, National Guard Fitness Day, the Little League, Hy-Vee block parties. We have a couple guys that do a babysitter class in the community. We also go to the schools quite often, do talks, and you know, if they invite us over to talk about what we do. So our equipment, which you'll see some of the budget items on here, we have a fleet of 9. We have our ladder truck, engine 14, engine 18 is our county pumper, engine 15 is our city pumper, our tanker. We have a brush truck, a medical rescue truck, fire unit 1, which can pull our rescue boat, and then we have a wildland response gator on a trailer. So the fire department budget is one of the departments that is funded by the general fund. Besides the salaries you're going to see up here, which is the majority of our budget, just like everybody else, a lot of our operating budget is obviously for truck maintenance, station operating expenses, and then outfitting the firefighters with the gear that they need. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'll open up to questions. So you can see on the budget, maybe, our full-time drivers, engineers, the ones that are at the station 24/7, they work a California swing shift, on, off, and then they're off for 4 days, and they rotate that way. And then our part-time firefighters are paid a stipend every quarter, and then the chief job is also part-time that gets paid quarterly. Overtime, can be significant. We're trying to reduce that. But if a driver has to come in on his days off, he gets automatically paid overtime. Anything over 106 hours for our drivers is also automatic overtime. And then, one of the biggest expenses we have, which we've tried to reduce the budget coming up on a couple of the line items, but vehicle repairs, a big one. Trucks aren't cheap, and we can't repair everything in-house. We're trying to do a better job of that. But just so everybody knows, truck maintenance, to keep a fire truck running, a $1 million fire truck isn't cheap. We just had to replace a master cylinder on our aerial truck, our ladder truck, which was almost the tune of $13,000 just to fix that, to make sure that truck was in operation. That has to be done by a certified professional to fix those kind of things. Besides that, we have the usual utilities on the fire station, office supplies, and we have maintenance agreements for our our air cascade system in there where we fill our bottles. We have pest control, all the things a normal business would be operating that has to be done within that station. So I think if anybody's got any questions for me on the budget or anything on the fire department, it's been a busy year so far.
Can you comment on how many calls you responded to this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, the fire department responded to 1,400 calls, and that includes medical calls. Actual fires, emergency fire calls was somewhere around 350, 360 calls, and those are different types. Structure fires, like I said, we had 17 structure fires in 2024. We're up to 8 so far this year. Grass fires, we had 24. We're already at 30 this year. Unauthorized burnings, 3. Car fires, 13. Trash fires, car accident where we extricate people. Car accident without extrication where we do the fluid cleanup, which is actually a hazmat call. Confined space entry, standbys, electrical emergencies, we had 7. So you can go out throughout, but about 350 calls in 2024, and it looks like 25 is probably going to be busier. 25, 26.
I would like to commend too on the, with everything you guys have coming up and everything you're doing, that you're taking a reduction in your budget request this year over what you spent the previous year. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough because of the new fire station. We're going to need some things in there. We're going to move. We're going to be taking stuff over from the old fire station. We're some of the refrigerators and things like that. We're not buying new stuff for that. But we're going to be taking stuff out of our old fire station and save some money there. But I think people need to realize a little bit, when you run a fire department, you're not just fighting structure fires. People think, but just briefly, some of the training that our guys have to do, and then what we're trained on in this community is all of our guys are Firefighter 1 certified, and the majority are Firefighter 2. They're all hazmat ops, operation level. We do confined space rescue training, grain bin rescue, and over the years I can count on 7 or 8 grain bin rescues we've been called to. We also do ice and water rescue, high angle rope rescue, so we can now rappel and do some of those things. Vehicle extrications, of course, and then the structural firefighting. So the guys, for a volunteer department, mainly, they are trained in a lot of things. So you should be proud of the guys that are taking their time off from their jobs to come. But it does cost money, and we're trying to reduce the budget this year.
Brad,
Yes.
explain why Fairfield needs an aerial truck and about the service life of the trucks.
Okay. Well, the ladder truck, most communities our size have a ladder truck, but we did have some fires back in 2004. We had an old stick ladder. But the city decided to buy a safer bucket truck for us. And that was a 2006 model. And after 25 years, they're recommended by the NFPA to be taken out of service. So that ladder truck, we need to start planning for a new one. That one I think was around $700,000, and this is the case right now. And now a new one built to the same specs would be somewhere between $1.8 and $2 million. They're just a pumper truck It's $400,000, now it's about $1 million to get just a pumper truck. But also got to remember, with the aerial truck and some of the training and what we do and having full-time drivers on duty with the response times that we have, the city's, your insurance, homeowners insurance, the ISO rating, which is the insurance service office, basically gives a fire department a rating on how well they protect and what they're trained on, and we're at a 4, which is very low. So when we talk about operating procedures, you can take some stuff away, but you remember, the ISO rating for our community is very low for the equipment that we have and the trained personnel and the response times.
Low is good, correct?
Low is good. Yeah, it's funny. My daughter moved to Georgia and moved to a town, and I said, what's the ISO rating of the fire department? She couldn't answer that. Obviously, I looked it up, and it's a brand new fire station, full-time. It was at a 1, which is crazy low, but they're completely full-time. So low is good. We don't want
we would pay.
lower your taxes on your fire protection. Yep. Any other questions?
Morning. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank you for taking the time this morning to join us and listen to hear either a department head or a representative of their department present their budget or talk and discuss a little bit about what's gone on in the last year and the goals for the upcoming year. I'm Tara McFarland. I am the Assistant Communications Supervisor. I've been in this position for about 1.5 years. Been with the department going on 9 years in June. The Jefferson County Center currently consists of 7 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee, and this is what our budget pays for at this time. The Communications Center has been facing a staffing shortage since May of 2018. We currently have 1 full-time employee off on military leave until October of this year. If for some unknown reason she decides not to come back, we will have to start the hiring process for her position. Here are some of the struggles we faced in hiring our last employee. Out of the last 7 months of taking applications, we received 107, and we only hired 1 person in that time. This individual was able to complete all stages of the hiring process, which included passing the first initial background check, standardized testing, interviewing, and reference checks. That stat right there should show those members of our city council what the city departments are facing when it comes to hiring and how we need to take care of those employees we currently have. It is the goal of the communications supervisor and myself to do just that. If it's not already known, but every single one of the Jefferson County community specialists leave their communities and drive anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes to provide emergency services for the citizens of Jefferson County and the city of Fairfield. We even still have 1 part-time communications specialist working in Washington County who covers shifts, but it's a change of pace, and we do things just a little differently than the full-time agency she works for. This should show some of the members of City Council the dedication the communications specialists have in serving this community in the city of Fairfield. For the 2024 fiscal year, the Communications Center worked a total of 13,485 hours amongst the 6 full-time staff members and the 1 part-time. During that time, we answered and dispatched 19,151 calls for service. Keep in mind, we dispatched for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, Fairfield Police Department, Jefferson County Ambulance, Batavia Fire, Fairfield Fire and Rescue 17, Libertyville Fire and QRS, Lockridge Fire and QRS, Packwood Fire and QRS, and we also keep track of calls for Brighton and their QRS. I would give an individual breakdown of how busy each of these jurisdictions are, but instead I'll just give the numbers and call volumes received through the Communications Center for the 2024 fiscal year. We received 4,818 911 calls, 6,329 administrative calls, 521 calls for service of those coming into the lobby. Keep in mind the Communications Center received 7,483 calls via officer direct, interagency, teletype, and other forms of communication. In 2024, we achieved several exciting things in our Communications Center. As stated last year, we were working with EMA Farrell and updating our outdoor warning system, and that was completed. We now have the system that automatically tracks severe weather and will set off the outdoor warning sirens when there is a threat to the area due to high winds and large hail. We completed this installation process with the schools and the new quick alert system. This allows us to see inside each of the schools within the Fairfield Community Schools District. That way, if there is an emergency in a classroom, we are hands-on or eyes-on with the teacher and can respond immediately. We also partnered with the Fairfield Community School District, Pekin Community School District, Maharishi, and Jefferson County Emergency Management to install what are called CIRF radios, also known as School Emergency Alert Radio System. This ensured the Jefferson County Communications Center has contact with the front office in the event of an emergency. The Jefferson County Communications Center has also been part of some internal upgrades. We recently installed two 32-inch monitors on the west wall and enhancing our ability to visually monitor Fairfield Police Department officers during interview. These monitors allow us to observe the interactions without audio for officer safety purposes. Another thing that has been talked about for years and finally implemented throughout the entire building was upgrading our phone system to an auto attendant. This allows the communications center to better serve the citizens of Fairfield and Jefferson County when there is a true emergency, instead of having to play secretary, filtering calls throughout the entire building. We have noticed a difference in the amount it has made in the amount of calls received up front. Our last thing in the works for 2024 is the new vendor for our CAD system, computer-aided dispatching. This will change the software throughout the entire building and software equipment that is used in officer and deputy patrol vehicles. We have gone with a company called Oracle that has a lot of efficient features to assist in our day-to-day operations. We can also grow with the company and include outstanding emergency service and outside emergency service agencies later on down the line if they decide to do so. In closing, the Jefferson County Communications Center 2025 goals are to remain a strong foundation for our community in ensuring efficient and effective emergency services to provide to the citizens in their time of need. It is also a personal goal of the Jefferson County Communications Supervisor and myself to make sure all of her staff and our staff are taken care of, as I previously stated, to ensure that they are getting everything they need. Anybody have any questions? Good. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alex Schmidt-McCunis, and I'm director at Fairfield Public Library. I graduated from the University of Iowa School of Library Science in 2020, and I've served at FPL for almost 5 years. For 3 years, I've been director. First of all, I want to express my deepest, most heartfelt appreciation to the community for your continued support and funding of Fairfield Public Library. Public libraries are the cornerstones of American democracy, and a great many in our community strongly believe that maintaining funding for public libraries is essential. Today, I'm going to tell you about how our library operates, share about some successes and challenges, and present our fiscal year 26 budget. Our library in Fairfield has 4 full-time staff members, including myself, our adult services librarian, a children's services librarian, and our technical services specialist. For part-time staff, we have an assistant children's services librarian, an office manager, and 4 front desk assistants. And we have 1 shelver. I also have to mention our amazing cleaning crew, Tim and Linda. Fairfield Public Library maintains a well-used collection of nearly 80,000 physical items and about 152,000 ebooks and audiobooks available through Libby and the Bridges Consortium that's funded in part by a federal grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. The library purchases approximately 2,200 new items annually, In addition to print, music, and film, the library now offers Wi-Fi hotspots, various AV equipment, board games, video games, and laptops. We're also in the process of preparing framed fine art prints and some musical instruments for checkout. All of these library materials are paid for through grants from the Fairfield Public Library Foundation. Our library offers many children's programs each week, such as a baby story time with songs and movement, a preschool story time with crafts, as well as a toddler play event. Our children's librarian also provides outreach programs to a number of childcare centers in Fairfield. Last summer, we had almost 500 youth participate in the Summer Reading Challenge, with our total attendance at programs in the months of June and July topping 4,000. Just last month, the Youth Services Department hosted a 2-night immersive fantasy adventure for tweens and had over 100 attendees. Regular adult programs have been further expanded in the last year to include our weekly Adult Craft and Connect, 2 new library-sponsored book clubs, Mahjong group, and a cancer support group. In the last year, we saw checkouts climb from 107,000 a year to 105,000 a year. 105,000 a year ago to 107,000. Annual digital checkouts were an additional 20,000. Our door count runs from 1,600 visitors a week in the winter months to exceeding 2,000 a week in the summer. Using an online calculator originally developed by the Massachusetts Library Association, our records show that in the last year, our community was able to save just over $2 million by borrowing library items instead of purchasing these things. We now have a design proposal from Minneapolis-based architecture firm MSR Design, which includes recommendations for deferred maintenance projects, such as gutter repair and flooring replacement, as well as an initial design for enhancements to the building, including an update to the Youth Services Department. This document will aid us in prioritizing future building maintenance and repair and guide us in our efforts to update the facilities. I hope to begin fundraising before the end of the year. Our main challenges are: 1, adequate funding for our facilities given budgetary limitations; 2, lack of consistent, reliable on-site IT support; and 3, inadequate staffing for the services our community appears to need. First off, facilities. In the last 2 years, we have been able to update our heating and cooling control system and had a number of long out-of-service components that are part of that system replaced. We have also replaced our leaking skylight and had our water-damaged ceiling repaired and repainted in the atrium. With our building approaching 30 years of age, we anticipate some projects like what we've described, such as carpeting or flooring replacement and at some point a roof replacement. But thanks to the generous support of Fairfield community residents, we've been able to pay for these much-needed repairs this past year. Moving on to IT, the library is a tech-oriented environment. I can troubleshoot and repair some devices when they go down, but I'm not an IT professional. And with my other responsibilities, I'm not able to devote the time necessary to more time-intensive repairs. I strongly advocate for the city to provide funding for a local on-site tech support position that could provide help with maintaining the city's tech infrastructure, including the library. This was not included in the fiscal year 26 budget. This year, I started a highly successful by-appointment tech help service, and I currently help about 3 people a week with support for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. This is also a service that could be provided by a certified IT professional. Finally, staffing. Since 2022, we have reduced total weekly staff hours by 20 hours, yet we're seeing increased use of the library every year. Prior to the Access Systems citywide remote IT support contract, the library had a part-time on-site tech support coordinator who also taught popular community tech classes. We have attempted to bring on volunteers to make up for our loss in staff hours, but we are operating at such a high capacity that no one is able to take on additional volunteer coordinator responsibilities. And it's not a matter of finding volunteers for us, it's training and supervising them. Given what I've begun to share today, I advocate for funding in a future year to hire a full-time library staff member to serve in a dual role, an assistant director, providing support for some of the following: advanced IT support, staff management, volunteer coordination, and/or fundraising. Our annual budget has been approximately $500,000 for the last several years. Starting last year, we transitioned all funding for library materials, such as books, to be provided by our foundation. Previously, about $6,000 was contributed by the city. In the initial budget proposal we submitted in December of last year, the Library Board of Trustees had proposed a 16% pay rate adjustment for professional titled librarians to make us more competitive with other similar communities. We've conducted a pay rate study for the last 2 years, which has shown that professional librarians in cities with populations and tax bases similar to Fairfield, regardless of advanced degrees, have been paying their full-time professional librarians at a $20 an hour rate since 2023. Our rate in the current fiscal year is about $17.50. In our December budget submission, we had also retitled our full-time front desk position to be the Public Services Librarian, with new responsibilities to offer more dynamic services to the community. We had creatively reallocated funding from other areas of our budget to accomplish this, with a minimal increase to our budget. However, due to funding shortfalls statewide and a request from the city to reduce our budget by about $54,000, we made the difficult choice of reducing our long-standing full-time front desk position to part-time and adjusted pay rates accordingly to reduce our total budget for this next year. In our new proposed budget, the current budget that will be the fiscal year 26 budget, we will still be able to provide the cost of living increase to staff, as well as a more moderate pay rate adjustment for professional librarians. Another creative solution we found to reduce our budget was to migrate to a new library management software that will save the library $15,000 annually. The Library Board of Trustees and I understand the current economic environment, and with this knowledge, we're beginning to consider new methods for increasing revenue for the city, such as through an annual fundraising initiative and developing strategic partnerships with businesses and manufacturers. I'd also like to briefly mention that the library is transitioning to a different financial model where at the close of this current fiscal year, we will be closing our Iowa State bank account, which has historically been used to store funds for purchasing library materials and things of that nature. And all funds that are owned by the city will be held in the city's general fund. And so actually, when you look at our budget, you can see, I think there's a 6%, maybe 7% increase between this year and the previous year, 7%. But this budget never before had all the library materials expenditures in it, which is approximately $60,000. So we were very creative in how we reallocated funds to not inflate our budget, even though we are paying for a lot more now. And the funds that we anticipate getting to pay for all these materials, which we've always gotten before every year because it's our foundation and they love us. We're anticipating receiving about $90,000 to cover these sorts of expenditures: library materials, new computers for the library. So lots of changes in terms of the Fairfield Public Library budget, and that's what these times call for. In closing, on behalf of our staff, the Library Board of Trustees, and the whole library community, thank you for your continued support of Fairfield Public Library. It's an invaluable treasure for our community. Thank you today for your time and attention. Any questions?
Yes, Alex. So I'm interested.
Can you use the microphone?
Interesting. Thank you. It was interesting how you turned to us, and I think you're quite proud that the library, the metric of the library saved $2 million for the community. How did they come up with that figure?
Well, basically you look at the cost, like the value of every item that's checked out, and the cost that a person, for example, would pay to get tech help from someone like Shay Barber downtown or Michael Cassiopo downtown at the Fairfield Computer Clinic. Also, like the cost of use of computer time. So everything is kind of monetized, all the services that we offer. And it's true. I am very proud that we can save the community, between $1 and $2 million every year.
Yeah, you should be.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out too that it's because of that library foundation and the generous community that we have that's made a huge difference for our library, because so many of our materials and programs comes from that foundation. So again, I just want to put a plug in for, as your estate planning, consider the foundations that we have in our community. The library, Park and Rec has a foundation, this facility has a foundation, museum, education foundation. So those are really important in our community to support us.
Just a quick question. Would you comment on the county funding that gives to the library, and under Iowa law, they're required to fund the library to a certain extent? So
Yes.
how much service do you give to the county?
That's right. Well, the portion of Iowa code that stipulates this particular amount of funding from state counties for county libraries, that this portion of Iowa code was developed in 1977, and it very much needs to be updated because the funding that is provided to our city, it doesn't. It's not sufficient actually for our needs. And another thing to mention is just that we do have 5 contracting towns that we receive funding from as well annually. But actually, a lot of the people in the county that they have an address that would lead you to believe that they reside in perhaps Lockridge or Libertyville. They're actually rural users, and we actually have a very high number of rural users in the county. I don't have the specific number here today, but we're actually working on kind of like a data cleanup project to make sure that we have like the most accurate numbers for our rural usership. But the annual amount that that community members pay in taxes to have library services is around $23 a year, and our rural users are they don't pay that much. I know that people feel strongly about not wanting to pay for services that they don't make use of, but we do have a lot of rural users that do use the public library services, and I'd like to see in the future an increase in terms of how much counties are able to provide in funds for their public libraries, because I think that especially for our rural communities, a public library is a resource that it's just irreplaceable.
Real quick, I know we have a certain amount of time here before we go on to the next speaker, but you were advocating for an IT professional. That's an IT professional, as I understand it, for the entire city. Is that correct?
Yes, because we in our current access systems contract that most of the city departments are paying into and taking advantage of. The library is not participating in that contract anymore because of our particular tech environment. We really need on-site support actually. Part of the reason for that is because we use 2 types of software that kind of are a barrier to remote access for a company like Access Systems. So we have a PC reservation program that is kind of like one wall, so staff have to get involved to take that down. And then there's also a program called Deep Freeze we use that protects people's privacy, and it will revert back to like a saved state on a computer after a person signs out. So that's 2 layers of protection that Access Systems can't get through. So they have to send someone out, to come from somewhere like Ottumwa or Des Moines to help with on-site support, and that's an additional fee that the library had to pay previously. And so we think it would be better if the city had I'm not speaking on behalf of the trustees right now, but I feel personally, based on what I've experienced the last 5 years, it would be good for the city to have one on-site IT technician that could come to the library and make sure that updates are being run on our computers. When we had the Access Systems contract, we had computers that had not had any Microsoft updates run in over a year and a half. And so you know what it's like when your computer hasn't been updated in a long time. You sign on and suddenly every single thing has to be updated. So library patrons get on our computers and they spend just, 20 minutes waiting for all the updates to come through. So, it didn't work for us. We would like to see, I would like to see a local on-site person who could help with city hall challenges, rec center, website maintenance, and even design. I know that our budget, is what it is, but it's a dream I have that we could have something like this one day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to point out one more thing really quick. Hands down, I think we have the best library within 50-mile radius of our town. I haven't been in all of them, I've been in a lot of them. And ours is much, much better. But I would like to point out one thing, that you said that you were forced to reduce your budget by $50,000, and it wasn't actually $50,000 from last year, it's $50,000 from what you requested.
Right.
Right, but it wasn't you still have an increase in budget over your previous year. But
Right.
Okay, I just want to
Yes,
point
that's
that out.
true.
Yep, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
How's it going, council? Great. Citizens of Fairfield, everybody watching. So my name is Calvin Todd. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation, and I have been the director for this summer will be 9 years. So if you're excited and stoked about that, you can come give me a handshake and a high five. If you're upset about that, go talk to Doug or Connie, and you can express your feelings towards them, okay? All right, so we're gonna get into this here, and so I've got 4 departments that I'm gonna talk about. So we're kind of broke up into parks, recreation, indoor pool, outdoor pool. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is parks, and I'm gonna go over some things in there, and then we'll move on to recreation. So our parks department, we got 3 full-time employees, Pam, Brad, and Dylan. They do great work. We've got a pretty big parks department. We've got 10 parks, about 6 miles of trail. And if you've been paying attention to anything that has been going on in our parks department, you notice there's been some nice playgrounds that have been put up over the last 5 to 6 years. Judy, what's the word on over on Heritage?
Gonna take the grandkids, it's that nice.
All right, all good things. So go over to North 9th Street at Heritage Park, check out that tower that was put in over there. I believe I talked to Mel, our city administrator, and she told me we were about 3 feet shy of having to actually have a permit to have the playground. So I thought it was pretty cool. So, but you look at our budget, you can see up here, a lot of the stuff is just kind of the way it described up there, building maintenance and repair. You know, if we've got a shelter or a piece of playground equipment or something like that that may need fixed, or if we got to re-roof a shelter, anything like that, the gazebo up on the square, benches, trash cans, anything like that, it's going to come out of that line item right there. And then trails kind of speaks for itself. We're fortunate we have the big bridges in our section of the trail, so we get to replace a lot of wood and then just material that we put down on the trail as well too, and then cutting back the overhang. So then, like you said on there, equipment repair, that's our mowers, that's our trucks. Then we got a minor equipment, which would be like weed eaters and stuff like that. So pretty self-explanatory. One thing that we do is you'll see in our equipment line item, so this is kind of our big budget thing here in our parks department, is we will be getting a new truck. This will allow our crew in the summertime, so our 3 full-timers, and then we usually have about 2 to 3 seasonal employees as well too. be able to divide and conquer. So we can take mowers on one side of town and mowers on the other side of the town, and we can cover more ground and cut more grass. And then also in the wintertime, we'll have 2 trucks now that we can help plow with. So that's what we got going on in our Parks Department. And then, so we'll move over to Rec now. A lot of really exciting things going on in Rec for this year's budget. Thanks to Miss Rebecca, she told us that we needed a new server and 6 new computers over there. So that's our huge expenditure right there is new server and 6 new computers. So I don't have a whole lot of exciting stuff going on in Rec this year. Outside of that, which you can see, that's a $39,000 expenditure right there. So that's a pretty big one. But one thing I will say is what we've been fortunate with is this budget year that we are in right now. We were very fortunate to have a pretty, to always have a pretty nice budget, but we were able to get 5 new pieces of equipment for the rec center, workout pieces of equipment. And you probably ask yourself, it doesn't really seem like a big deal, but some of these pieces of equipment are $5,000 a pop. So, so it does go, so we have been upgrading, and we'll continue to do that each year. Our goal is to replace some new pieces of equipment each year. And then, but then you go through there, and a lot of it is also kind of self-explanatory. When you get down, some of the things you might have questions about would be like other professional services. That is a website. That's our software that we do all of our programming in and stuff like that. Or if you're buying memberships. And then the other thing, too, is that we have Johnson Control System, which is kind of like the brain of our facility in regards to HVACs. And they'll come in and do some maintenance, some quarterly maintenance in there to make sure that we're operating smoothly and efficiently. So now let's go over to the outdoor pool. We do got a big project that we are going to be working on this coming fall. So our outdoor pool, believe it or not, is going into its 10th season, I believe. Seems like it was just yesterday, but we are going into our 10th season. And so that's 10 years of that outdoor pool sitting out there going through 10 years of winter and all that. So the seams and the joints that are actually down in the pool, those need to be replaced. And all the caulking and everything needs to be pulled out of there, and that needs to be done. The reason why we want to do this is we don't want to lose water. And this is something that we're doing where we're trying to stay ahead of the game here, where we don't get caught behind, where we have a summer that we're losing water. And Steve Redinger from the water department's asking me why our water bill's so high over at the outdoor pool. So this is one of those things, we're just trying to stay ahead of it. Trying to stay ahead of the game here. We want that pool to last as long as it possibly can. So, but other than that, that is going to be with the outdoor pool. You'll see one thing that we've also been working on too over the years, and this is my fault. I take responsibility for this. And it's the same thing in rec as well too. And with our part-time seasonal employees is that we're getting their wages up. Our goal is to increase their wages. My goal is, when there's a high school kid looking for their first job or looking for a summer job, the first thing that goes through their mind is I'm going to see what Park and Rec has to offer. And the last few years, we've been kind of behind the 8 ball on that. I take full responsibility for that. But now we are to a point now where come this July when we get into our new budget, we won't have, and I don't want to hear any boos, but we won't have anybody that is under $11 an hour as a seasonal employee or part-time employee. And we're still working on it. We're still going to get it. We're going to increase it each year. So now we're going to go down to indoor pool. And it's a lot of the same thing, like kind of what I've talked about already in regards to building maintenance and repair. And then that is right there, replacing lights on the pool deck. One thing that's been a focus of ours has been the indoor pool. So over the last couple of years, we've replaced the lighting in the locker rooms that are right there by the indoor pool. We've done some countertop work in there as well, too. We've replaced the doors, the automatic doors that go from the locker room out to the pool deck. And then we just, this last fall, redid the decking on the pool deck, too. So it's one of those things that, you know, we keep continuing to work on it, and we want to have, our goal is to have the best facilities in Southeast Iowa, whether it's our parks department, whether it's our rec center, and our indoor pool, our outdoor pool. You know, I will admit that I am a competitive guy, and I want to say that we have the best facilities in Southeast Iowa. So with that said, we've got a question with Doug right now.
Can you comment on how we're restructuring the membership fees?
Yep. So one thing they're working on is restructuring our membership fees. So my personal opinion is that we used to have a lot of options, and talked with our advisory board too. And I know you might think that, you know, it's good to have options, but what we're going to do now is we're going to combine. You used to be able to buy an indoor pool membership or a rec membership. We're going to combine that now. So one membership gets you access to all of that. And I don't, you know, I hate to be the one that brings it up, but we have quite a few patrons that would maybe buy one membership or pay one fee and utilize both. So that was also kind of a leading factor to where we are going to combine that. So there won't be a indoor pool membership or a rec membership. It's just going to be a membership to the facility. So.
Calvin, so a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
The Park and Rec is very budget conscious. We appreciate that. And for example, as I understand, until recently, or even currently, we don't have a cleaning contract with the facility?
That is correct.
And
Yeah, we do that in-house.
And you're part of that cleaning crew, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm part of that cleaning crew,
So,
along with everybody else in the rec center.
We appreciate that. The other thing is, I think you noted that if there are any complaints about your service, to either speak with Connie, our mayor,
Or you, if you want to hear them too.
or our acting city administrator, who you identified as Melanie Carlson.
Yeah.
Melanie, would you please stand? Assistant acting for this purpose. Actually, of course, our city administrator is Doug. I was just kidding there. But we very much appreciate the work. Could you give us a little update on the locker room flooring?
Sure can, yeah. So another, this is one of those things where, like, hey, if you think the director's terrible, go talk to Doug. Bad decision on my part, and I take full blame for this locker room floor. We thought we were gonna have like the greatest thing since sliced bread to have this new flooring put in there. It was gonna be very grippy, it was gonna be very tacky, and which we liked, but we also found that because it's a rubberized material, so we also found that it stains, and the stains are very difficult to get out of it. So to the eye, it looks very unpleasant. So our plan is we are going to remove that, and then we are going to do new flooring in there, this will come out of lost funds, so it won't necessarily reflect in our budget, but it will come out of lost funds. But we are going to be, this fall, we'll be shut down when we do our annual indoor pool shutdown when we drain, but we'll be redoing the flooring in there. So it'll be similar to the pool deck, it'll just be there'll be a lot more grit to it. So with it being a shower area as well too, it'll have a lot more grip to it than not saying that the indoor pool deck doesn't have a lot of grip to it, but it'll be grippier than that as well. So,
Calvin, you might mention what's going to be new at Obie Nelson Park.
oh yeah,
Because of a generous donor.
yeah. So Doug already touched on this a little bit, but I was thinking of Chautauqua Park, Obie Nelson Park. So we actually got a nice donation. Should I say the name?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll give a shout out.
We haven't gotten permission to say it, but.
We haven't gotten permission, but we got a nice donation. And once it goes up at Obie Nelson Park and you see it, you can come ask me who donated it. I'll tell you then. But we're going to put a new shelter up over at the skate bowl. So we're going to do a shelter over at the skate bowl. We're going to do lighting, and then we're going to have it sandblasted as well too. So if any of you skateboard or that are here in the crowd today, and you go over there and look at the skate bowl, you see it. There's a lot of local artists that go over there and like to express themselves on the escape bowl. So we're gonna get that squared away.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to point out too, because of, I guess, continuing ed is what I'd call it, but you are now qualified to train and certify lifeguards, which we've never had in-house previously, correct?
We have had it in-house. We didn't have it, we haven't had it in the last couple of years. So, so it was a lifeguard instructor course. So I was in that class along with council member Two Hill's son. So he's an LGI instructor as well too. So we'll be able to certify our lifeguards in-house, and we've got a whole bunch of them that have applied for this summer, and I'm excited about it. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Joel Smith. I've been serving with the police department for nearly 14 years. I started as a patrol officer in June 2011, and through the years I've worked as a patrol officer, field training officer, team member for the strategic response team. In 2015, I was promoted to sergeant, and in 2017, I moved into the role of the patrol lieutenant. Since September 24, I've also been filling the additional responsibilities of the administrative lieutenant's position, following the retirement of Lieutenant Julie Kinsella. Just jumping into some operations things before the budget items. Between January 24 and December 24, our department responded to 9,545 calls for service. This is pretty consistent with our historical averages. It reflects the ongoing demands placed on our team year in, year out. The biggest challenge currently facing our department is staffing. Currently, our department is authorized for 14 full-time positions. That includes the chief, 1 lieutenant, 4 sergeants, and 8 full-time patrol officers. Our current staffing is as follows. The chief, and we'll be losing him here in a few months to retirement. The lieutenant's position, 2 sergeants, 5 full-time patrol officers, and 1 full-time officer that's currently undergoing field training. So this will bring our total to 6 full-time patrol officers once the officer in training is fully certified. It should also be noted that 2 of our officers, whom are enlisted in the Iowa National Guard, they're slated for a 1-year deployment overseas beginning in May of this year. So we're going to be losing 2 of our folks. We're looking at least 12 to 13 months for that. Additionally, we recently added a K-9 to our staff, which is 100% funded through community donations and grants. Also this year, we've been fortunate to supplement our staff. It's helped to augment our schedule coverage and decrease the amount of overtime that the full-time officers have had to work. It's also helped to direct more time into larger investigations that require more time to complete. When we hire a new officer who isn't certified as a peace officer in the state of Iowa, that's often the case. It's fairly rare that we hire a certified officer. The cost to equip them with the necessary gear and provide the required training and certifications is approximately $25,000. Additionally, from the moment we hire a new officer, it takes nearly 1,200 hours of training before they're ready to patrol on their own. Going into a few budget items here, you'll notice that the budget remains largely unchanged compared to last year. Our largest budget line, as every year, is employee full-time salaries. The most notable change that you'll see is in the other professional services line item. We requested a 52% increase in that item, and that's due to 2 different issues that we're currently facing. The first issue is our integrated camera system that includes our dash cameras and our body-worn cameras. Those have become obsolete. We're having to constantly replace those over the last 2 years. The cameras weren't operating properly. They're constantly needing replaced. Previously, it wasn't an issue due to them being under warranty, but since the cameras were discontinued by the manufacturer, they want us to pay $500 an hour, whether it be for tech support over the phone to troubleshoot or to send them in for them to work on the cameras. So we decided to end our contract with that company and save money. Once we decided not to extend, we began searching for a new company.
Officer, you said $500 an hour?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So once we landed on the company that we wanted to use, it's called Axon. One of the reasons that we decided to go with them, they're a very reputable company. Another benefit to us was they allow us to pay for the equipment and the installation over a 5-year period, as opposed to one lump sum coming out of the budget. Most of these systems were installed of January this year. We're up and running with them. We do have a little bit of equipment that's still coming in that will be upfitted here probably next month. The second issue that we're facing on that line item is the software that powers our department's operations. It's called Allpoints. That is being phased out by its creator. It was created by somebody in the area. That person's retiring, and he's no longer going to support that program. So that system is essential for day-to-day public safety operations. It's shared across the police department, sheriff's office, and the dispatch center. Just to give you a sense of some of the things that it does, it's used by dispatchers to track and log all incoming 911 calls. It tracks and logs calls for service for police, EMS, and fire in the entire county. It tracks traffic collision data, crime reporting data. The officers and deputies rely on this to write citations, criminal charges, reports. The system also logs and tracks evidence for criminal cases. It's used by the jail to intake inmates, and those are just a few things that the program's used for. The transition to a new system, it's called Oracle, is essential as Allpoints will no longer be supported. The cost of the new system will be split between the police department, sheriff's office, and emergency management. The largest cost will be the startup cost associated with switching to the new program. The cost will be shared with the police department paying about 25 to 30% of the cost for the startup. Though the cost is shared, the impact on public safety operations will be significant. Given the reliance on the system across multiple agencies, the transition to a new system is essential for maintaining operational efficiency and ensuring that all public safety departments can function seamlessly. With our department's current staffing shortages, we need to maximize our efficiency in all aspects of our work. The new system will allow us to streamline critical tasks, particularly the time-consuming paperwork involved in incident reporting, evidence handling, and criminal case documentation. By automating and integrating these processes, we can free up valuable time for our officers to be out in the community, patrolling, responding to emergencies, rather than being tied to desk work. That's all I have. You folks have any questions? Nope.
What's our plan at when these two people leave for the National Guard?
I mean, there's not going to be much that we can do. There's going to be some overtime for the officers. We're going to be utilizing our part-time officers as much as possible to help keep people from getting burned out with too much overtime. But that's pretty much all we can do.
Thank you.
Comment on our part-time officer contingent, how many do we have?
We have 2. Yep. So we can only use them a certain amount of hours per week, so they can only cover about 1 to 2 shifts per week. But yeah.
That's something.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Laura Franklin. I'll be presenting the administrative budget this morning on behalf of our city clerk, Rebecca Loper. I wanted to take a moment to thank everyone for being here, our coworkers, city council, and the community members that have attended. Rebecca wanted me to start off by thanking City Hall staff for their loyalty, hard work, and genuine commitment to helping others. They come in every day with smiles and positive contributions. She also wants the department heads attending to know how thankful we all are for their commitment to the operations of the city. They take their jobs home with them every day, sometimes on weekends, vacations, and especially in the middle of the night. They have made this budget season relatively smooth, And with the cuts that we've asked them to make, they worked hard. They found ways to cut down costs and work within the budgets given. Moving on, we'll talk about the general fund, which consists of police, fire, dispatch, library, parks, recreation, indoor and outdoor pools, Carnegie Museum, Fairfield Media Center, emergency management, cemetery and taxi appropriations, planning and zoning, administration, mayor and council. City Hall is home to offices for the mayor, city administrator, city engineer, public works director, city clerk, accounts payable, code compliance, planning and zoning, utility accounts and processing. At City Hall, the staff processes utility billing and payments, zoning and sign permits, home occupation licenses, dog licensing, residential rental registration, subdivisions, annexations, rezoning, variance requests, accounts payable, engineering, and code compliance issues. We submit state reports, we process payroll, and we house human resources. City Hall is also where city committee meetings and council meetings are held. Speaking on behalf of the administrative budget, revenues included 19 liquor licenses, 13 cigarette permits, property taxes, franchise fees, and fees associated with electric vehicle charging stations. Expenditures in the administrative budget equal $925,920. The largest expense being property insurance at $662,100. So much like everyone else, we see those increases. It's been over 50% in the last few years, and the city currently levies for a large portion of this expense. Other expenses include legal fees, election costs, IT services and software, office equipment, and a 2% contingency of general fund operations, which is required with the city's financial policy. That's all I have. We'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you, everyone, for all your hard work and making sure city operations run smoothly. Any questions?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, Doug mentioned that we should explain how the cemetery works. So the cemetery, the old portion of the cemetery belongs to the city of Fairfield. And the current cemetery organization takes care of that. That's why we give money out of local option sales tax to the cemetery to mow and take care of that section of the old cemetery. And currently it's a tough budget for them as they're barely getting by. And that's why, if you notice, if you go by the cemetery, you'll see a thermometer, because they are raising money for a foundation that could help sustain their operation. And we hope they make that $2 million mark, because we do not want that cemetery to come back to the city of Fairfield and have to be totally responsible for that. That would be a big chunk of budget that we would have to maintain. So you want to add anything, Doug?
You hit everything on the mark.
Okay.
And it's important that we take care of them so they take care of us.
Yeah. And so I would,
we would be required to take responsibility for the cemetery if that goes under.
That's correct.
Yeah. If they, for some reason, could not maintain their operations, that would come back to the city of Fairfield. So I would just, again, encourage people, if you have family out there that are buried there, to consider a donation to the foundation so that, there's a little money there to help, because they're doing all the mowing. Yeah. Thanks, Laura.
All right, last one before the break. I'm always last, just like at council meetings. So my name is Melanie Carlson. My official title is Public Works Director and City Engineer. I wear many hats, but one of them is not currently City Administrator. The Planning and Zoning, one of my duties is Planning and Zoning Administrator. The Planning and Zoning Department is responsible for processing many of the permits that Laura already spoke about. And we are also cover the code compliance issues and handling the complaints. We do fall under the general fund. However, our department recovers about 50% of our expenses through fees and permits. The most significant of our revenue sources comes from rental inspections that makes up about 60% of our revenue. Business licenses make up about 17%, with the zoning permits about 9% of our revenue. On the expense side, like most of everyone has mentioned, most of our budget goes towards salaries, with other large portions going towards legal fees and then professional services. One of our professional services that we use is an independent arborist that comes in to assess the dying and damaged trees before we send out the letters to property owners requesting they be removed or that we assess them to their property for the city to remove them. Other expenses within our budget are the publications of notices and sending mailings for people who are attending the planning and zoning or board of adjustment meetings. However, those fees are paid back to the budget by the applicants who request to attend those meetings. The planning and zoning department, we officially consist of 3 employees, myself, the planning and zoning assistant, and the code compliance officer. We also utilize the full-time fire drivers to complete the rental inspections. However, both myself and our assistant have so many other responsibilities that only the code compliance officer is budgeted within the planning and zoning department's budget that you see on screen. Under the council's direction, our code compliance officer has placed a strong focus on addressing unsafe buildings and houses throughout the city the last few years. And thanks to that focus, there has been progress, or real progress. To date, or within the last couple years, we've seen 1 house demolished by the city, at least 2 houses, 2 commercial structures, 1 accessory structure, and several mobile homes voluntarily demolished by those property owners. And there's 1 more house pending demolition by the city's contractor any day now. Additionally, there's been several structures that have been repaired after identified by the city's code compliance officer. Contrary to popular belief, the planning and zoning department is here to help. We do have to operate under a very large book of rules, the city code, but our goal is to find a workable solution under those guidelines. Whether it is new construction or addressing a cleanup, we encourage anyone to contact us early. We all have many hats in the department. Early and respectful communication with us to navigate that process to find a solution. And I'm sure that you'll hear from the water and sewer departments later that in addition to the city codes, that there are some state codes that are out of our control. And although Iowa is considered a home rule state, in recent years, we've seen an increase of state regulations that are beginning to impact the zoning side of things as well. In the last few years, there's been at least 2 new zoning laws. There were 2 new zoning laws passed by the state legislature just last year, and there's 1 currently still under consideration this year. I know there's a lot of local interest in auxiliary dwelling units. However, I would encourage the citizens to review Senate File 592 to make sure that that state regulation is what you're looking for, because once the state passes that, our department can't work through those regulations with you as we could if it was a local regulation. Again, we want to work through those regulations with you and the regulations that are set forth by the council, and just we're not always right by our phones, and we all have a lot of duties in the planning and zoning department, so bear with us the best we can. And we'll work with you when they are our regulations. We'll work with you to find a solution best we can. With that, I believe, unless there's any questions on planning and zoning, but that concludes the general fund portion of this morning's budget. Yes.
Could you, would you comment on the number of homes in our community that are rental units that are being inspected by the drivers in the fire department? And what, as a public service, what recourse renters might have if they're dissatisfied?
Dissatisfied with the rental inspection or with the
their
conditions?
Living conditions.
Okay.
Because they don't get inspected every year.
Right. So the city's process is to inspect them once every 4 years. Trying to think. A year or two ago, we did start a process where all of the rentals need to have a certificate posted that if they have been inspected by the city, this is to, I guess, give people who maybe aren't familiar with the city system or just maybe are unsure, don't feel comfortable asking their landlord, hey, I want to see a copy of your inspection. It is required for landlords to post that certificate someplace obvious, and so if you don't see that, you have the right as a renter to see that, and you can also call up to City Hall to request that information. If you have concerns about your property, that we can, depending on the conditions, we can come and do a spot check. If it is close to needing reinspection, we can schedule those early. Regarding the number of rentals, I will say that Fairfield has a very high number of rentals in regards percentage of rentals compared to occupied homes.
Aren't we close to 40%?
That was the last I knew, 46%. Yeah. But between the certificate, posting the certificate and contacting the planning and Dawn at the Planning and Zoning Office, we can answer those questions. Seeing a copy of the last inspection, those are different things that tenants can ask for.
Thank you.
I think I'd just like to mention in this first part this morning, we've talked about local option sales tax quite a few times. That's where buying locally makes a difference versus shopping out of town, shopping online. So when you can, please shop local, because it does affect that local option sales tax, which does not affect your direct property taxes. So that comes from sales tax revenue.
And I will talk about all the great projects we're funding at the end of the next group of presentations. Again, I get to go last. So 10-minute break? 10-minute? Okay, so be back at a little after 10. Thank you.
Joe Hurd, with the street department. Operating budget number up there, the 1.32 something. I'd have to put my glasses on, sorry about that. I'm going to kind of talk about, I'm not going to go through each number, but I'm going to kind of talk about starting last June, July, what we did, some successes and some challenges that we had going through the year. Last June, we started on Park Street. It was about a little bit more than a 4-block concrete replacement. Did not do the curb, but it was a huge undertaking for the street department. I think we ended up spending about $130,000. It's something that if we would have had a contractor do it, we probably would have been closer to $500,000. We did it pretty quickly. It went pretty smooth. We had dry weather. We were able to, during that time, we were able to use some contractors, some other contractors to help us finish, to come in behind us for like a few hours each time that we poured, and it went really well, and it's something that we needed for as big a pours as we were doing. It's the biggest project that we had done up to that point, and I was pretty happy with the way that it turned out and the money that I feel that we saved the city. Skipping forward a month or two after that, we had one of our guys that came down with leukemia. So in August, I think he started his treatment process where he's gone. Obviously, he's on medical leave. This guy is our main mechanic. He takes care of, when something breaks, he's the one back there working on it. He's also the most experienced guy. Not only is he the mechanic, but he's the most experienced guy that knows everything about street department stuff. We send him on digs. I mean, he just knows everything. I can send any of the new guys with him, and he's going to lead them through that. So losing him was a pretty big, not losing him totally, just he's gone right now. He's actually just had a bone marrow transplant, and he's on the mend, and hopefully anywhere from 3 months to a year we'll be getting him back. But anyway, losing that man is a big deal for personnel, just like a lot of the departments. They've, we're always struggling with people coming and going. So fast forward into December, we had another guy that decided to take a job to better himself, and I was happy for him, whatever. But going into the winter season, losing another person, we have, I'll back up, have me and 7 guys is what I had in the street department for snow removal and everything that we do. But anyway, another guy decides to take a job. I did not even want to go down the road of trying to hire somebody with all the snow and everything that's going to be happening during winter. So talking it over with my guys, we decided that we were going to try and make do this budget year without that other man. So now we're down a couple. One of the things I had planned on doing moving into the winter season is trying to hire seasonal help like the state does. And so what they'll do is they'll hire part-time people to come in and drive snow plows. And that had been my plan anyway. And one of the successes last year is that we were able to do that. The people that we find are not people that don't have a job. What works best for us is find somebody that has a job. Maybe their main work is in the summertime, they're contractors, but on a day that there's a storm, these people are not going to be doing anything. More than likely, they don't have a whole lot to do. And so I was able, it takes a lot of work to get them rounded up and, to try and the logistics of it. But actually one day, we didn't have that much snow this year, but one of the days, I had 6 extra people helping us during snow removal, and we have the equipment to do that. So that's something that I'm planning on continuing, that seasonal help in the wintertime, because we actually have quite a bit of equipment, but not enough people to run it. And the key to success during a winter storm is just to have a lot of vehicles out there and just going over and over the snow to keep it removed. So that was a big thing that happened for us that I think was a big success. Moving forward, well, actually, backing up just a little bit, one of the problems that we had last year was our loader breaking down. It's about 10 years old. It's something that needs to be replaced, and the loader is responsible for a lot of things. It's like our main piece of equipment. We're loading material in the wintertime, in the trucks with it. Brush pickup, when brush pickup happens, we have grapples on it. The winter storm that we had 2 years ago, I actually ended up having to hire bigger loaders to open streets up. It's just not quite big enough. And it's just a very important piece of equipment. If we have, well, not if, when we have another storm damage, you know, where it's coming through in the summertime and blowing trees down, it's the main piece of equipment that's going out on the streets and removing that stuff. So hopefully we'll end up with a loader. I think that we're going to, but we'll see this year and get a replacement. We had a lot of repairs. Actually, at one point, the loader was on the airport road, broke down, or on the airport runway 2 years ago, broke down. So hopefully we'll end up with a new loader this budget year. One of the things also that's a success is we were able to purchase a used DOT truck, and the reason it was $25,000 there a year or so ago, but one of the things that's big about that is they come with the wings, they come with all of the setup for applying brine. They're just a really, they're older trucks, but we don't put that many miles on them, but they're a huge asset. They're heavier, able to move more snow, and so that was a pretty big deal too. So one of the things that we've got planned to do this year is Burlington, I think, is about 20, the Burlington overlay is about 20 years old, and a lot of the reflective tape that keeps you in the lanes that you're supposed to be in is gone, is just wore off. And so this year we're looking forward to trying to do some of that ourselves in-house. And it requires a machine that kind of goes through, and there's grooves where that tape lays, and we're going to be grinding that off and then reapplying tape. We won't be able to do the whole thing. The tape is extremely expensive, but we're going to get started refreshing some of those lines to keep people, when it's raining, snowy, dark out, people being able to see that where the middle lane is and where the right lane is pretty important. So I'm going to be doing some of that in-house this year, along with continuing to try and seal the streets up, keep the water out of it with our emulsion and some of the other products that we use. So any questions? Thank you.
On now. All right, good morning. My name is Steve Redinger. I am the water superintendent for the city of Fairfield. A little bit of background on myself. I've been in the water field for 32 years, 4 years at a surface water treatment plant in Bethany, Missouri, 2 years at a shallow well plant in Gladstone, Missouri, and I've spent the last 26 years in Fairfield. Our current water treatment plant is a lime softening plant built in 1974, and it will treat 4 million gallons a day. In 1999, the city went to all deep well water, which is higher in total dissolved solids. So we added our EDR plant in 2002, which stands for electrodialysis reversal, which is a membrane treatment, and it can produce 2 million gallons a day. We take half our water coming in and run it through our lime softening plant. Then we take the other half and run it through our EDR plant. Then we blend the two together to send it to town. We have 3 deep wells. One will produce 950 gallons per minute, and the other 2 will produce 500 to 2,000 gallons per minute. We currently produce around 1 million gallons of water a day, which feeds all of Fairfield, Lockridge, Jefferson County Rural Water, and Libertyville. Let's see, our waterworks is run by the Department of Natural Resources, which drives our budget. Every 2 years, they'll issue our operating permit, tell us what we're going to test for, and do a walkthrough to see if we are operating in accordance to the permit. We cannot change treatment or chemicals without their approval. Our plant is currently a grade 4 treatment, and our distribution system is a grade 3, which simply put, you have to have a grade 4 license from the state of Iowa and a grade 3 distribution license to oversee the operations. We have 3 employees at our plant that have to have at least a grade 2 treatment to operate alone. The waterworks is a 24-hour operation, 365 days a year. Those 3 operators are on a rotating schedule of being on call for holidays, weekends, and evenings. Those 3 operators take care of all the testing, maintenance of the pumps, the feeders, plus maintenance of the plant grounds, deep wells, and the towers. Our distribution system is much the same way. Those 4 operators are also on a rotating schedule. They take care of all the water leaks, approximately 96 miles of water mains, 700 fire hydrants, 5,035 metered accounts, plus maintenance on the backhoe, the skid loader, our mini excavator, and all the vehicles. Our yearly operating budget is roughly $2 million a year, which pays for chemicals, maintenance, salaries, and training. One of the ways we've been trying to stretch our dollars is doing in-house smaller main projects. We've switched all of our lights to LEDs in-house, and we've also installed VFDs on all our motors. We've also been able to start shutting down the plant from 8 a.m. in the morning to 1 p.m. to conserve power usage when possible. One of our biggest accomplishments to me this year is, which the council passed July 8th of 2024, is to start switching out our water meters to Metron meters. These Metron meters are cellular based. Once a day, these meters send what is equal to a text message to the girls uptown with the meter read. These meters will help us to track our water output more efficiently, while also letting the consumer know if they have a leak situation within a 24-hour period, compared to the 30 days that we have now. This will ultimately lead to no more meter reading, which will free up our distribution department approximately 20 hours per week for other duties. So that's the overview of our operations. I'll open it up for any questions.
Hi, Steve. Can you comment on Fairfield's practice with regard to fluoride content in the water?
The fluoride content?
Fluoride, and also address the issue of PFAs or forever chemicals that, I saw the water report that came out in the insert a few months ago.
Yeah, we had to do that last year, and it's in the water report again this year. EPA mandated
Just in case
it.
no one read it, I'd just like you to comment on it.
Yeah, the FOS chemicals is the simplest way to explain it. When you go to McDonald's and you ever wonder why that wrapper don't stick to the hamburger buns, that's because of FOS. It's a non-stick agent. They found some detects in some surface waters, basically, because we're on a deep wells, so it's harder to get into our system. And we had to do all that testing for, you name it, a whole page or 2 of chemicals. They had no detects on any of ours except for lithium, which is not uncommon in deep well water. So we were good on FOS chemicals, but that was a lot of that FOS testing that had to be done. And then on the fluoride, that is a big topic right now. We feed no fluoride at all. We have a natural fluoride level out of the deep well at a 1.3 parts per million. So with that, and you cannot go above 4 currently, 4 parts per million.
And what's the recommended fluoride content for by the federal government? It's 0.8?
It's 0.8 to 1.2.
Okay, thank you.
So, any other questions? Any from the crowd out there?
Could you say a little something about the sort of like
We do have some lead mains out there, leaded in mains, not lead mains or cast, but a lot of them back in the day was leaded in. So when we replace water mains, those get replaced too. But we also keep our water slightly on the depositing side. That keeps the lead and coppers down, which we have to test for every 3 years all over town. And they have significantly just kept dropping over the last 10, 12 years. Thank you. Okay, is that it? All right, thanks, guys.
Good morning. My name is Sean Worley. As you've noticed this morning, we have many, many talented people in the city. One of my talents is not public speaking, so you'll have to deal with me here. I'm the superintendent for the City of Fairfield Wastewater. I'd like to thank the mayor, council, and community for giving us the opportunity to present our facility operating and budgets with you today. The wastewater plant is a new state-of-the-art facility that allows the treatment of sanitary sewage without the use of chemicals or additions. Instead, our process utilizes activated sludge, which uses select bacteria for the breakdown of organic solids. The new upgraded facility has been in use since 2020. The wastewater facility operates and maintains 74 miles of sanitary sewer mains, 1,150 manholes, 16 sewer lift stations, 57 submersible pumps, sewer cleaning machine with a robotic camera system, and all treatment control equipment. The wastewater budget is permit-driven, which means the facility in the city has an NPDES permit, which is a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, and is governed by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency. The permit states parameters at which our wastewater must be treated to, thus guiding a treatment budget. In 2024, the wastewater plant was upgraded in level and treatment required. All treatment facilities in the state of Iowa are graded from Lagoon 1 to Grade 4. The facility was a Grade 3 for many years, and with new changes in treatment processes and stricter limits that need to be met, our plant was upgraded to a Grade 4 facility, putting us in the same category as Iowa City, Des Moines, and Cedar Rapids. This change has had some growing pains with recertification of operators needed and learning a new set of treatment techniques to obtain permit limits. The facility operates with 7 full-time operators who service and maintain the equipment and assets of the city. The majority of the maintenance and repairs are conducted on-site by our trained employees. The facility strives to provide needed training and excellence in the treatment of water to ensure that our assets are protected as well as our water environment. The employees are the driving force behind being able to achieve a manageable budget with their knowledge they bring and the extra effort they put in to achieve higher licenses to match our permit requirements. I've asked our city crew to come in today that worked for the wastewater department to thank them for the extra time they've put in through this change. It's not an easy process. It takes years of studying and testing to get up to the points where we're looking at. Our yearly budget is $2.1 million, which includes all operating, treatment, maintenance, training, repairs, projects, and salaries for the entire department. A few highlights of the 25-26 budget are the wastewater facility is just finishing up with our grease lightning lift station reconstruction and force main sewer line rehabilitation. This is a total rebuild of the city's main lift station, which serves the west side of Fairfield. The lift station handles approximately half of the city's 1 million gallons of wastewater daily. The station was last repaired 17 years ago and has been in operation since the 1980s. The new lift station is sized and scaled to handle future expansion in the west half of Fairfield. The wastewater facility operates a certified lab to perform some of our lab testing in-house. Over the last 3 years, lab chemicals and tools have increased in price at an alarming rate. To combat some of the cost increases, we have utilized our certified lab status as a tool to be able to perform outside testing for small communities and using those fees as an offset. The wastewater facility also accepts sewage from certified waste haulers in our community that are collecting sewage from septic tanks. This service provided is billed to the contractor at a per gallon rate and is another source of income from our budget. In the new fiscal budget, we will continue to focus our efforts on preventative maintenance, which include treatment process equipment as well as all sewer collection systems. Design of Step 4A will begin this year, which is mainline replacement and upsizing a few lines in the southwest quadrant. This process corresponds with the consent order issued by the DNR and the EPA to prevent sewer sanitary overflows. To this point, we have made drastic improvements and positive steps to fulfill the requirements given. Overall, the wastewater facility has remained fiscally responsible and utilizing a realistic budget, maintaining a performance-based water treatment process while continuing to protect our streams and rivers for the people and nature who utilize and depend on them. Any questions?
I was thinking we should note, I believe we built in a little increase in water and sewer per year, correct? That
In
sound
the
right?
future years, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like 2%? 2%? Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. I'm here to report on the Fairfield Historical, or the Carnegie Historical Museum. And I'm on the board of the museum and also the treasurer. So I got picked to be the one who has to talk about these numbers for you. Before I get started, overall, I need to give you a little background on what's happened in the last 4 years to the museum, so that I'll give you an idea why we're heading the way we are in this next coming couple of years. Starting in the year 21-22 budget year, we had roughly $32,948 worth of money that the foundation invested into the museum. Things like electrical improvements, which LED upgrades, which a lot of people seem to be doing that. We refurbished the front steps and the railing, and also we started the project of doing our flagpole installation. The next 3 years, a lot of these projects carried over from year to year, so that when we completed some of them, they carried the next year, and then we completed them after that. So the year 23, we spent about $416,000 of the foundation's funds, and this went to structural stabilization and tuck pointing and things like that, as well as all new windows that were highly efficient, replacement, some miscellaneous shelving, and also the new front sign in the front of the museum. In the year 24, we continued a lot of those projects, the structural stabilization of the building, tuck pointing, new window replacement, completion of the flagpole, display cases, and also the signage. And then this year, 24-25, we're kind of winding down on some of these big projects. It was around $67,000, and that finalized the structural stabilization, the tuck pointing, the new windows, and display cabinets, and that was roughly $67,000. So over the last 4 years, there's been a $935,815 rough numbers investment by the foundation into the Carnegie Museum. So we feel really good about that. The community's really come forward to help us in donating to the foundation. And I think right now today we've got some really good bones in the facility in terms of its structure. It's going to be more efficient because of the windows. That's going to help us keep the cost down on utilities and so forth. Overall on our budget, last year we have 2 employees basically that are Jake Schmidt, which you all have known by now, and if you don't, he's probably going to try to drag you into the museum to get you in there too, and also Charlotte Wright, who is also Jake's backup person for doing a lot of data entry, research, and so forth. Those are our 2 main people that we have in our facility. So all the other things for the operation are done by volunteers, and that's either most of the board. We have a pretty good group of people on the board who are working board members that help whenever they can on special events or whatever needs to be done in the facility. We're looking at last year's budget was $72,466, and this year we're looking at a budget of $61,000. That's about $11,466 reduction from last year, or about 16% overall budget reduction. We've been working on this, and we feel confident that through the people we have there, a lot of hard work and a lot of volunteers, that we're going to do everything we can to meet those numbers. I can go down through the line item here, but is there anything in particular here that you have questions on at this point? Okay. Well, we just want to thank you all very much for the support you're giving the museum. It always makes it a fun place to work, and we enjoy showing it off. Thank you.
I have to come all the way from the back. My name is Jason Strong. I'm director of the Fairfield Media Center, also known as FPAC Channel 9. I've been the director/station manager since 2011, and it has been an awesome joy to be in that position and be able to help serve the community in that capacity. So, sorry, I'm much more used to being behind the camera rather than in front of the camera. Even though I train people how to use a mic, I do all that. I do all the same things people do once they get in front of a mic. Just to kind of go over our budget items with you guys. Let's see, the part-time salaries, that's my salary. For the most part, I'm part-time, and it's been a part-time position from the very beginning. Usually capping out about 35 hours a week, which there is always stuff to do and always stuff to work on, so it's time management and getting all that done. Next is contract employees. We do pay people from time to time to help out with video editing, filming, doing the time code links on the city council meetings, so that way if there's a specific part people are interested in, they can click on that time code and be able to jump right to that point. We do have a mobile phone that we use for people to contact the Fairfield Media Center rather than having a landline phone. Most times I'm out in the community, and so it was a little more efficient to go that route rather than having a landline in the office. We do have office space currently over at the CoLab. We also have a filming area inside the CoLab as well, which has been great. It keeps us down on the square where events are happening, so all of our equipment is close at hand. Contractual services is just that. These are services that we pay for, that we use. A lot of these are subscription type services, such as our editing software, our website, our Dropbox, which is our online storage. And also, for those who don't know, one of the softwares that we use is called Caster.io. And a few years ago, we ran into a few issues with, back in 2020 during the whole pandemic, where we ran into issues with YouTube. We made the conscious choice years ago to utilize YouTube to our advantage as a public access entity rather than fight with it, because YouTube became the public access of the world at the time. And but in order to have a backup so that we did not run into any issues with other live stream events or public meetings such as this, we pay for a subscription that allows us to send our live stream feed directly to our website. So if you go to fairfieldmediacenter.com, there's a tab that you can click on, and you can simultaneously watch this live stream as well as on YouTube. So if for whatever reason a YouTube's live stream gets pulled down, by the AI system in place, that stream is still going to our website. So there's no loss of information in those regards. So that's been a great benefit to have as a backup copy. Equipment, we really try to be frugal with our equipment. We're getting ready at some point here to start updating our cameras. Our current cameras that we use for our day-to-day workhorses are upwards of 10 years old, and they have a lot of high mileage on them. They're currently the cameras we're using to live stream today's event. And so rest assured, we do our due diligence with our equipment, and we get as much usage out of them as possible. We also have about a 5-year rotation on our computers. As you imagine, computers, especially for video editing, they're high demand, resource intense on those, and so they rack up quite a lot of mileage as well. And we try to turn around on those about approximately every 5 years. The rest of the items, as far as supplies, operating supplies, we do strive to teach classes. Since about 2020, we backed away from doing classes as much and focused more on one-on-one training for those who are looking to advance their technical skills in the video realm. And so I've done a lot of one-on-one stuff. That being said, we're always open to doing more and more classes and getting people trained and having that video literacy when it comes to things, because everyone's walking around with a 4K camera in their pocket anymore. So teaching people how to best utilize that in a way that facilitates their needs is one of the things that we'd like to focus on. The rest of it is, a lot of it is equipment. Like I said, the capital outlay line item, we're looking at getting our first camera upgrade, like I said, in about 10 years for our workhorse cameras. And then special projects, those include an iPad, an iPad case, an upgrade to our broadcast computer, which is currently going on approximately 5 years old, which feeds our live broadcast and our live stream over at City Hall. But other than that, is there any questions from council or the audience?
I'll just comment, what you do is vital to communicating with our community, and if we didn't have you, it would be a great loss.
Just to add something I forgot, just because, like I said, I get nervous being in front of the camera like everybody else does. We do work with local nonprofits. It is one of our charges. So if you are a local nonprofit and you are needing some sort of video help in getting PSAs out, things of that nature, that is part of what we do. That being said, too, we also have a partnership with Fairfield Productions, which does the Fairfield History Series films. And those have been a very, very popular and big influence in our community. We're happy to have that partnership with them. And one of the added benefits to that partnership is we will have content for years to come out of those films. So one of the shows that we have in process is called Inside Fairfield's History, which is the more in-depth interviews that go into those films. So you may get 2 minutes of an hour-long interview that made it into that film. And so these shows go into more depth on those individual subjects. So plenty of historical content and programming to go along with that stuff. But anything else? Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate your guys' support and the transparency. Yeah. There is an unknown when it comes to the tariff costs. What we do is we try to find the best deals possible. So we'll go to more than one storefront or online location to look at where we can get the best prices on our equipment. Unfortunately, at the time, when you do a budget, that's a snapshot. So there are chances where equipment does tend to go up or even sometimes go down in cost. So we have a general idea of the equipment we want. Now, it may mean if tariff goes up, it may be the difference between, okay, we can only upgrade 2 cameras, not 4. So it's working within the budget that's set within that snapshot window. So those tariffs could directly impact us. And like I said, it could just mean getting fewer cameras at the time and having to upgrade over a longer period. So hopefully that answered your question. All right, well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Hello again. My name is still Melanie Carlson. I'm still the Public Works Director, and I'm still last. As Public Works Director and City Engineer, one of my duties is to oversee and coordinate all of the construction throughout the city. When I introduce myself to a group of people, I often joke that between approving zoning permits and coordinating the construction, that pretty much any construction-related traffic delays anywhere in the city is probably my fault. One of the most important tools that I use for coordinating construction projects is the Capital Improvements Plan, or CIP. The CIP is a 5-year plan that lays out the major projects and purchases the city is preparing for. This includes things such as the water main replacements, street reconstruction, maintenance of public buildings, and purchasing of essential equipment like vehicles, pumps, and treatment components. Many of these items have already been discussed by the department heads. They're not the everyday expenses that are part of maintenance. They're the large-scale items and long-term investments that require planning and coordination. Fairfield, like cities everywhere, are facing these same challenges with aging infrastructure, rising costs, and funding sources that aren't keeping pace with what needs to be replaced. The CIP is helping the city stay aware of these problems, preferably before they become emergencies. The CIP guides $3 to $4 million in capital projects each year, and that excludes any grants or loans that we receive for larger projects, like Step 4, the EDR replacement. 14 departments are coordinated through the CIP, utilizing 12 different funds, unless, of course, there's grants like the FAA funds. The CIP is a supplement, not a replacement to the budget. It's about 45 pages, and it's attached to tonight's council agenda, and then included on the city's website year-round. There are 2 important funds included in the Capital Improvements Plan that have not been discussed yet today, and that's the Capital Improvements Reserve Fund, or CIRF, and the Local Option Sales Tax, or LOST. And I love the story that Tom Toohill always tells about LOST, about a citizen had questioned whether the city had lost some money, because we kept referring to lost funds, but that is the Local Option Sales Tax. So beginning with CIRF, again, Capital Improvements Reserve Fund. This fund was approved by voters in November of '23 and applies a levy of 67.5 cents per thousand taxable value, generating approximately $240,000 annually. The CIRF has supported a wide range of projects through many of the departments over the last several years. I've got fiscal year 24, 25, and then some projected projected projects shown up on the screen. As Calvin mentioned, in recent years, this fund has contributed to playground equipment at O.B. Nelson Waterworks, and then most recently Heritage Park. And if you've enjoyed those improvements, you need to thank your neighbors and friends who've supported those levies, because honestly, without the CIRF fund, we could not include those type of amenities within our regular general fund. For fiscal year 26, CIRF is designated to fund the fixtures and furnishings or some fixtures and furnishings, I'll say, for the new fire station. Chief Farrell mentioned that we will be taking items from the existing fire station to the new one, but we will be contributing some of the CIRF towards those items. We'll continue to seek grant opportunities around every corner for the fire station, but the CIRF can provide financial flexibility to closing some of those gaps if those grants are not awarded. The other fund not mentioned yet today, or not discussed in detail, is the local option sales tax. This is a 1% sales tax collected within the city of Fairfield, keeping those local dollars local. LOSS generates significantly more funds than CIRF, bringing in approximately $1 million per year. But these funds are very specific and do not have as much flexibility as the CIRF. The funds are distributed according to how the voters decided in 2017, and that vote set 50% of that $1 million for street and street reconstruction, including planning and design, 25% for property tax relief, and 25% for any other lawful purpose, including community betterment. For fiscal year 26, the street portion is going towards an assortment of items. The largest portion is going towards an overlay of Adams Avenue from Main Street to, we'll see as far as the dollars will go, but we're hoping to get all the way to 6th Street. As Joe mentioned, the street crews hope to do another street in-house, similar to what they did with Park Street, and LOSS funds will be contributing to that. We also have some outlet repairs to the D Street culvert. And lastly, one item that I am looking forward to is preparing for the replacement of the Lamson Woods Boardwalk or Bridge. We're hoping for a potential partnership with the Fairfield Community School District trades class. In fiscal year 26, we'll be working on the logistics of that partnership with then, again, if future budgets are approved, the construction occurring in fiscal year 26. We'll be continuing that discussion with the school district over the next year. The remaining portions of the LOSS for the community betterment go towards grants as well as other parts of the budget. The Ways and Means Committee awarded $79,247.82 in grants. I'm not going to announce those today. They always enjoy announcing those themselves. But additional budgeted items or city departments that have received funds include fireworks, the Beautification Commission, rec center equipment, as Calvin mentioned, and the locker room flooring is being funded with LOSS.
In the Arts and Convention Center.
What?
In the Arts and Convention Center gets a good chunk.
Yep, and that's on this next page. The Arts and Convention Center, a mower for the Parks Department, Fire Department gear, and new gutters for the library. One item I asked Chief Farrell to mention the fire trucks because we do set aside approximately $100,000 each year from LOSS towards those fire trucks that will need to be replaced and discussed very soon to meet that need. Fairfield, like all cities, have big infrastructure demands. We've got at believe all of the departments mentioned these numbers, but in summary, we have 58 miles of streets, 74 miles of sanitary sewer, and 92 miles of water mains. The capital improvement plan lists the capital assets such as those trucks and pumps that need to be replaced, and is estimated at $10 million in capital assets that need to be replaced over the next 5 years. CIRF and LOST are just a few of those funds that are critical in keeping that infrastructure and public facilities repaired. Much to my engineering mind's dismay, the CIP does not solve every problem, but rather give us a way to plan responsibly, building a stronger and more resilient community. Finally, as Director of Public Works, I want to say how proud I am of the staff that we have. They work hard without a second thought to maintain the infrastructure the community relies on, and do it stretching every dollar that we have. When I speak to high school students, or well, students of all ages, they always talk about how they hate showing their work, my kids particularly. And I tell them that I encourage the staff, all of our staff, to learn how to use their equipment, whether it's the wastewater treatment plant or understanding the mechanics of a truck, to understand how to use it without all of the technology. And our employees do that. They know the ins and outs of their department without the technology. They can operate their departments in an emergency day and night, no matter the conditions. They can lifeguard, they can do, they clean, they clean to doing the budget, top to bottom. All of them can do what's needed to operate it. And I tell those students that, you know, showing their work is understanding how to do the problem, not just doing the problem. And that's what, not just solving the problem. And that's what our employees do every single day in making this city function. And we've got a great team that take care of this city. So with that, I want to thank, unless Doug has closing thoughts, but I want to thank you do? All right, I will let Doug finish up, so. Okay.
Thank you, Melanie. Public service is planning and purpose. We do the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the long run. We are expected to operate within our means, manage funds efficiently, and keep the cost of services low while operating within the expectations of state and federal law and guidelines. Significant reductions were implemented to achieve a budgetary balance. Departments collaborated diligently and effectively. We are committed to working together to fulfill a shared vision. We utilize resources allocated to us to deliver expected services. The dedicated public servants we rely on around the clock every day of the week are essential to our operations. They make use of the tools at their disposal. Success is a collective effort. We rely on one another just as we depend on you. Many of our public servants have devoted decades to their roles with unwavering commitment, dedication, and loyalty. For many of us, this work is a calling, and it is the citizens who value our service that we continue our efforts. While you may not always agree with our methods, please be assured that we adhere strictly to established protocols, laws, and mandates. Every day we consider our families residing in various states and cities. We hold those same expectations of those communities will serve them as effectively as we serve you. We manage within our capabilities, leveraging our expertise and professional experiences, functioning as a vital component that supports the framework of good governance. Together we form a cohesive unit that offers additional support through our hands, eyes, ears, and innovative ideas. enabling us to assist on one another in achieving a collective success. I am grateful to the Council's efforts, external partnerships, volunteers, and most importantly, frontline employees. They demonstrate professionalism, composure, and intelligence, particularly in times of crisis. They often feel disheartened when their valuable ideas are delayed or their equipment essential for their roles fails due to budgetary constraints. Nevertheless, despite these challenges, they consistently respond to the call of duty day and night. We stand for questions.
You can submit questions online, correct? Doug says we can.
Submit questions to the
So-
audience. I'm sorry, I didn't know you meant
Online?
Yeah.
No? Can we do that? Just? Okay, just checking. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ann.
Hi, I'm Ann Walton. Thank you, Council and Mayor, for inviting the public to be a part of this process. We really appreciate it. And I just have some specific questions and then some general questions. Excuse my ignorance about the entirety of the process. I've really tried to learn it. I've sat through every budget meeting, but I still have questions. And also, thank you to all the city staff that are still here, because you're pretty behind the scenes for most of us, but you make our lives work. And so we thank you for that as well. My first question has to do with, is directed at Alex. And I'm just interested if you, in your budget, it's not reflected or I couldn't see it, if you lost some of your federal funding that was supporting, I think, your ebook program, and if I got that right, and what happens with that, and do we see that in your budget?
Should I answer right here? No, you need to come up here.
And thank you for your question. Fairfield Public Library has not submitted grant requests from the Institute for Museum and Library Services. The way that it tends to work is that state library organizations request these funds, and our State Library of Iowa receives on average about $2 million from that organization, and there aren't many reports of funding changing the way we operate due to these current and maybe projected losses, but one example of how the funds that are kind of expected to be unavailable are kind of affecting us is there's actually there's been some research statewide that's been done by the State Library of Iowa to determine whether or not it would be useful or valuable for our communities to have trained social workers in our public libraries across the state, actually, because there is a shortage of people providing this knowledge and these services. And so the state library, rather than come out and say, we need this now, they received funding to do research, and they've conducted surveys. They have also made available classes where actually, like library workers across the state, and this is probably similarly happening across the country, library workers are actually, they're being offered sort of like a group therapy once a month, because they, similar to our frontline people at City Hall, our library workers have to take care of and support people that are having really serious struggles, mental health struggles with homelessness, struggles with, addiction, and so on. And so, yeah, this was a service that was provided by funding from the IMLS, and that's gone now. There also were in-person trainings in places like Des Moines and Iowa City, where you could go and you could get crisis de-escalation trainings provided by a certified counselor, and those have all been canceled. So as of right now, that's what we know of in terms of loss of services due to kind of closures of federal agencies. Thank you.
I have another question.
So,
I have another
Ann?
question about for the communications center, for the library, for the wastewater treatment plant. You are also servicing a broader county. And so from a budget standpoint, I don't see how there's a contribution or how that's reflected in the budget in any way, how the broader county helps to offset some of those costs to you. And so that's kind of a triad of a question, but I think, and maybe that's best answered up here, I don't know, but from Doug, but where is the county's contribution to these services that are providing services to the entire county?
Any of those things come in as a revenue stream on our revenues sheet that we had discussed earlier. I can't remember which meeting that was, but any funds that we are collected goes into, is sent into the state of every penny that comes in is calculated and sent into, and it's on the revenue sheet. And I can get you a copy of that.
Okay, so that's separate from, isn't reflected in each department's budget?
Right.
Okay, and
Right.
that's what I didn't see up there, and then
It's
I'm
together,
trying
and
to
then it
figure
gets
out.
redistributed, but those are earmarked for those particular funds.
Okay, thank you.
There is
It's-
one area, Ann, just so you know, that I can think of off the top of my head. Dispatchers are city employees.
Yes.
They're on our budget. It is a county-wide service, but we take care of the whole expense.
So then the county, which has already gone through their budget process, there's accounting for their contribution?
Can you get closer to the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. So where's the accounting for the county's contribution? They've already gone through their budgeting process. Their budget's already been approved. And then how do we see their contribution to these services that are basically provided by the city, but they benefit the entire county?
They don't pay for communications. They don't pay for communications.
Okay.
The city picks up that entire expense.
Okay.
We do have a 28E with the county with regard to maintaining the jail.
Okay.
And the Fairfield Police Department is in that building. So we have an agreement that divides expenses other than communications on a month-to-month basis. So we get a billing from the county that we pay out every month for our share.
Including ambulance, emergency
No, that's
services?
separate. This is
Okay.
just for the jail.
Okay,
The ambulance is totally handled by the county. We don't have anything to do with that anymore.
okay.
Or after tonight, we won't, because we're gonna
So you've kind of
withdraw from the
divvied that up?
28E. Huh?
You've divvied that up between the county and city?
No, it used to be a three-part agreement between the hospital, the county, and the city.
Uh-huh.
And we had a 28E agreement that would cover that relationship, but it's gonna be canceled tonight, and the county's taking the full responsibility for handling that
Okay.
service. So
Okay.
the city's not involved, and neither is the hospital.
Okay. Thank you. I just see the range, the geographic range of these services and wondering where is that contribution accounted for, or how is it accounted for? So Calvin, are you still here? Yeah. Just one question. I want to be sure that in the budget, because I couldn't see it up there because we couldn't see the full budget, that with the increase in membership fees, then you are moving to professional cleaning services 3 days a week. Is that still in your budget here? I'm sorry to get everybody back and forth, but you can just say yes or no. But
Okay. Well, I'll touch on it just real quick. So it is, that is the plan. So we do have funds set aside. We're planning on doing 3 days a week, having a professional cleaning crew come in. Now, it's not specific into our budget that you see on there, but I think this year the plan was to do money out of lost funds to cover that. And then moving forward, when we do the budget process next year, then that will be budgeted into what you'll see up here.
Okay.
So, yep.
Once you've started collecting the new membership.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, correct.
Okay, and then my last sort of comment is that between Doug R. and Mel, you gave us an overview of where all the sources of the funds come from to run the city. But it would be really good to have your combined sort of presentation up front. It gives us a lot more context for understanding the budget, if you wouldn't mind, because I actually learned about some funds today that I didn't know about, and I have been trying to pay attention. And I think to have them all up front gives us a better understanding of where funds come from, including from tax sources and hotel tax, that kind of thing, and then how it gets redistributed. Because hearing it sort of in the front and in the end is a little bit, how do I put this all together? Because, you know, just reading the budget, you don't get that.
I think that's a great idea, as large as this is. There's a couple of things. I have been sitting down with citizens over the last several weeks. They come into my office and we go over the budget line item by line item. We need to figure out how we can get this online to where you can actually read it. I mean, you can't read this on your phone kind of thing. Most people are reading them on their phones. But we're going to work on that. But I agree, because we want to be as transparent as possible. That's why we're here. And, you know, we'll try to improve from year to year.
Yeah, thank you. Remember, some of us are lay people, and we're just trying to, how do you piece all this massive budget and all the sources of income together?
How, when these foundations like Park and Rec and Carnegie spend money, the library, it doesn't come through our budgeting process, and so that's invisible to the public?
Yeah, and so we do have a lot of foundations and donors, and their money is separate, and there's always got to be this fine line between public service and a 501c3, because they can do things that we can't. I preach that a lot. And so if there's people can actually come to the city and say, I want to donate, and Calvin's dealing with that right now. I'm donating this money for this project, and they give us the money and it goes straight to that. But then oftentimes they'll be raising money through the foundations, and that money is set over there, and the city doesn't get to touch that. They can actually use those funds to pay for things, because we as public servants cannot go out and start, you know, making phone calls. Hey, I need $5 or whatever for this thing. We can't do that, but these foundations can, and that's why they're key to a lot of the infrastructure that we have. Is they're collecting money to give to us for these projects. So that's kind of what Doug's saying is we as a city don't even get to see that. They just say, here's $25,000 or here's $100,000, and then we have to use it for that public purpose. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is helpful. Thank you.
I would be happy to make a copy of the budget and give it to you, and then we'll figure out how we're going to.
Well, no, thank you, but thanks anyway.
Maybe you can add an addendum that would show all the non-public monies that are being used to support public services.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real leveraging point, I think, for
and then secondly, or lastly, that we are required by law to be audited every year, and they come in and they start digging and they tell us what we need to change, what we need to fix, and those audits are also public.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, I think.
Can I speak to that point?
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
So on the funds, and I do admit that I'm a little behind on the capital improvements plan. It just came available for the public this weekend. So the capital improvements plan does include a description of the funding sources that are used in the capital improvements plan. I'm just showing the first one on the screen with the general obligation debt and different ways that it is used within the budget, as well as different ways it can be used. So that's all described in the capital improvements plan. So it doesn't cover all of the city funds, just the ones that are used for major capital projects. And then if there are foundation funds being used for a capital project, so I'm trying to think of ones that we've used in the past, that if we're intermixing things, I think like when the Chautauqua bathrooms were being included and we're mixing foundation funds with city funds, those will show up on the capital improvements plan as well. So we do have some of that in place with the capital improvements plan, But I hear what you're saying as far as maybe clarifying some of that with the foundation funds.
Pickleball courts on North 9th Street and the skateboarding rink down by Nelson.
Right.
All done
Well,
private money.
yeah, those were 100% through the foundation. And I will say a lot of things with the foundation are typically, they happen within 1 year and generally don't have a lot of planning. It's somebody calls us up in the middle of a budget year, and that's often why Calvin's budget is always over budget, because it's not in the budget. And, or if it doesn't go through the foundation and goes through the city, he's over budget because the money was not budgeted for. Even though there's a revenue to offset it, it looks like it's over budget, because oftentimes those donations are quick turnaround things or things that people want to see action on sooner than what that we get to with a capital improvements plan that are often longer term items. So
it'd be great to have this in a kind of table format, so when you're going through budget, people like me can understand.
Yep, and so there's written, about 18 pages of written, and then there's several different tables in the back, and charts, because I love charts.
Yeah, I knew that. I figured that you're going to be on top of that. And finally, I think you all know that, speaking of funding sources, the sustainability coordinator's position for the last 3 years has been paid for in part by the city, $15K a year, MIU, and then 54 citizens. And of course, there's been no mention of the budget, of a budget item for that position for the sustainability coordinator. And I gather you all know that I'm supporting that happening, so by now. But I think other people will be speaking to that. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
I'm Margaret Dwyer, and I want to thank the city leadership for putting this together and also for the department heads for showing up. I think it's really wonderful step towards transparency and helping people in the community understand how the city keeps the lights on, keeps the wheels on. And I want to applaud the intelligence and the talent and the creativity and commitment of all of you and all of the department heads in making the best we can of the resources that we have. I'm also here to talk a little bit about the sustainability coordinator position. I know it's a hard budget time, and I know that our city already has a great history of public-private partnerships, and this is another one. And I think in times of difficult budgets, public-private partnerships are more important than ever. So I'm asking the council to consider extending the sustainability coordinator position for at least another 6 months and add it to the budget. And why am I asking that? Because I think that the sustainability coordinator has led the Resilient Action Committee to produce some very important work since her hiring in November of 2023. That's Faith Reeves. This work totally supports and impacts the implementation of the Fairfield Forever Comprehensive Plan and many of the city's other strategic goals. The RAC's work is just now reaching a stage where the data and the recommendations can easily be shared, charts and so on and so forth, with the council and then with the public. A few weeks ago, the council directed the Personnel Committee to consider this position and make recommendations concerning it, whether it should be continued. And I think that was a wise decision. And I recommend that the council delay any decision on this position until the Personnel Committee and the whole council have an opportunity to fully understand what's been produced by the Resilient Action Committee. And I hope the council will find time to have a session very soon so they can learn what they need to know to make an informed decision about this topic. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak here, and I completely applaud this whole concept of this event. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Dora Pollock. I'm a licensed architect here in the state of Iowa, as well as in California. I'm born and raised here in Fairfield, and I've recently moved back to grow my family here in town and fully commit to this city and the growth of this town. I'm also here to speak in support of the sustainability coordinator position, specifically with our current coordinator of Faith Reeves. I bring this up because Resiliency and sustainability are critical, as you all know, and very important for my generation. I bring this up, I serve on the Resilient Action Committee on the Buildings and Energy Group. I'm also a member of the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. In terms of sustainability, as you all know, weather events are getting more and more extreme, and we need quality housing as for everyone to have fair housing, but also we need energy efficiency in our housing. This is not just an issue of comfort or some kind of abstract reduction of fossil fuel consumption. This is actually down to the dollars and cents, because if we have energy efficient housing, then people are spending less money just giving money to Alliant Energy, and more money is available for increasing the quality of the economy here in the area, and this will ultimately continue to grow our Fairfield community. And so this position is really important because, as you just heard, we've spent the last 2 years developing a plan with a variety of projects that are going to come out of this, and you'll hear all about that soon. And we need to actually take this plan and implement those projects. So I hope you consider the continued position of Sustainability Coordinator for the next 6 months. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Don Holting, and I've spent the past year participating with this Resilient Action Committee, more specifically with regard to buildings and energy. So I am here also to support the Sustainability Coordinator position. I've kind of seen firsthand what it takes for someone like Faith to, and what this position would require. And I've been kind of amazed because it requires a lot of technical skill, organizational skills to put 30 people together and put all of the thoughts in a reasonable fashion so that they can be understood. It takes intelligence, which I've seen firsthand. For example, you know, to understand land trust, pocket neighborhoods, building codes, and so forth. And I think that that position is critical for that. Perhaps most important, at least to me personally, is to have someone in that position who has compassion and caring, because we have a lot of citizens who really need some help. As a landlord, I see more and more homeless people, more people that are couch surfing, and it's a real issue, and it's not getting any better. So I feel that that position could be a link between the city and private citizens that could maybe help to do something about it. So I would encourage you to consider that position.
Hey, Don, I have a question, and I think you can answer it for the other people who have mentioned this. Again, in the past, the city has participated at $15,000 a year. Is that what you're asking to continue? My understanding was you were asking the city to fully fund that position. Can you please clarify?
Specifically, I'm not sure. From my point of view, I just simply would like to see the position continue. Whether that is, I would assume that maybe it could be continued with some outside participation other than the city, but whatever that takes.
I can answer that question. So the proposal is to extend her position from January 1 of 26 through June 30 of 26, 6 months, fully paid for by the city. That would be a cost of about $34,000. So $15,000 of that proposed would be out of solid waste fund, and then the balance would be out of the general fund and out of the benefits fund that we have for the regular city employees. And that would come out of their fund balances. It wouldn't be an increase in levy. It would come out of money that we already have in the various funds.
We currently have her funded through December, that position, correct?
She's fully funded through December.
Yeah.
She's fully funded through December from city funds, from schools, from Maharishi University, and private fundraising through December 31 of this year.
The request would be for the city to pick up the whole cost for the next 6 months, because the group that's backing this would like to start spending money or raising money to implement some of the projects that are going to be brought to the city. So
What's the plan after that 6-month period?
To be determined, and before that can even be discussed, you'll need to see the deliverables that the Resilience Action Committee is bringing to you, probably tonight.
So has there been any discussion about what happens after June of 2026?
Not with the council. We'd love to see it picked up permanently, but, you know, that's not for us to say. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that the ask is for funding through June of 2026.
Right.
But that's just
That's 6
a little
months.
bit more than a year from now.
Right.
I would imagine that the RAC has had some discussion, has a plan, or a goal, I would think.
Well, the plans that we're bringing forward to the city are plans for projects that go 3, 5, 7, 10 years into the future. So there'll need to be a comprehensive conversation about how are those going to be achieved.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Richard Bell. I've been the head of Marshy School for 17 years. We moved here in the late 70s, though, at a 12-year time out of the community. The reason I mention that is that I've had the opportunity over this time span to see what I feel is a really growing level of cooperation within our community, particularly between the public and private sectors in education. I have a meeting later on this week to talk with the superintendent about more cooperation that we can have. We already are sharing sports programs. I mention that because in participating in the Enterprise Solutions and Community Connections Committee with the Resilience Action Committee under Faith's leadership, extraordinary and for me unprecedented community collaboration. This seems to be a venue, an opportunity for us to do some really exceptional work together as a community. And in terms of the education applications of that, I wanted to share with you that our science teacher is submitting an application to a national organization now for an invention kind of a program. And what was written here was that beneficiaries will be integral to this process. For example, a composting system for local farms that would involve farmers in the testing, or an assistive device that could be co-designed with residents facing mobility challenges. By aligning with Fairfield's sustainability ethos and demographic realities, such as its aging population and environmental leadership, the invention our students may develop could have lasting local relevance. And it goes on to say the student-centered, community-embedded approach ensures our project will be both impactful and equitable, empowering students to become problem solvers for their own community. I can't think of anything I've seen over the last 40 years, let alone the last 17, that is more impactful in the way that the community has co-aligned in these different communities to develop real strategies like that. So that's one point. I think it's so applicable to what our students want to experience in our community. And the second point I'll make is that, like probably all of our institutions, we're facing, challenging times with our priorities. But I think by making a long-term commitment to the sustainability director position, it makes a very important statement for our students about the short and long-term priorities of our community. So I'm speaking, in support of a long-term security for that position as sustainability director. Thanks very much.
I'm taking my library director cap off right now and just also advocating for continued funding for Faith Reeves as sustainability coordinator. I got involved in the Economic Development and Community Connections subcommittee a while back. Actually, it's hard for me to get out of the library and connect with other initiatives. But actually, one particular committee was meeting at the library. It had to do with I think it was the land use committee, but I saw the way that Faith was able to bring together a really diverse, a diverse group of people to talk about these issues, and it was really her leadership that I was drawn to, and I've been really impressed with the work she's been doing. I agree. I think that we're so close to having something really, really strong to share with City Council, with the whole community, and these are really far-reaching goals and projects that are being planned right now. And I just think that we need more time to see what can come from this. And I ask that the city continue funding for the sustainability coordinator position. Thank you.
I would just like to note, just so people know, the community knows also, that I did speak to Grow Fairfield's director, Ed Malloy, about the new Sunrise Trail development to look at solar and he mentioned geothermal. So I think Rachel, he's going to talk to Rachel at Grow Fairfield and see if that's possible to include that in that new development down there. So look forward to hearing maybe something on that. Regarding the sustainability coordinator, I think it's important to recognize that we have to talk about the position, not the personality. We love Faith's work, no doubt. She's a competent person. That's highly, that's totally recognized. We appreciate all the work that she's done, and that the position has to fit in with the whole city goals. And we do have other positions, just so you know, that we do need a planning and zoning director. Melanie's wearing about 3 hats right now and working long hours. And I just want to recognize her commitment to the city. She's an incredible resource. And also Rebecca has about 3 hats too. So, so these are all discussions that have to be had about what positions are the most needed, and I'm sure there'll be lively discussions on that. So,
if there are no more questions, I call this to a close. Thank you. Thank you.